This is Elisa Cleary from the Global Learning Centre, sharing with you a resource to help you engage with reconciliation conversation starters for the globally engaged classroom and staff room. What I intend to do is to give you an overview of how to use this resource, to tell you what the purpose of reconciliation conversation starters might be for you and your students, how it aligns with relevant curriculum, the pedagogical approach we have used at the Global Learning Centre in this resource, and 4 reconciliation conversation starters that you could adapt for your classroom and or your staff room. I begin by acknowledging the Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first inhabitants of this country, and pay my respects to the traditional owners and elders, past and present, on the land in which this resource was created, the Turrbal people. The earliest historical records suggest that Brisbane was well inhabited by the Turrbal people. In fact, this dense inhabitation was one of the many reasons which attracted the early settlers to Meanjin, the Turrbal name for Brisbane, following their initial abortive settlement at Humpybong, now known as Redcliffe, in 1824. A warning: this presentation includes images and names of deceased people that may cause sadness or distress to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So the purpose of reconciliation conversation starters, firstly as a classroom resource. We have designed this so that it is an entry point into issues impacting on the lives of Indigenous Australians. We also hope that you can use this resource to connect local issues to the global context, and in so doing, nurture a global mindset. And thirdly, this resource helps you promote the development of alternative perspectives using Harvard University's visible thinking approach in your classroom, for whatever age you might be teaching and through whatever topic or discipline that you might be teaching. The other aspect of this resource is to assist with staff room professional development, to strengthen teacher knowledge and understanding about issues impacting on the lives of Indigenous Australians, to strengthen teacher capacity to explore teachable moments. We all have them when, out of the blue, a comment might be made and a discussion will start. With this resource, hopefully you're more ready to meet that discussion and to challenge thinking and extend your students' thinking. And finally, it can be used as a reflection tool for PLTs to consider where featured topics and strategies could be embedded into your curriculum. Now, reconciliation conversation starters aligns with all relevant curriculum. Beginning with your Australian curriculum, it has a wonderful fit with the cross-curriculum priority, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures. We've identified codes 1.2, 1.6 and 1.9 as particularly relevant to this resource. With 1.2, the idea is that you can look at Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and how these people maintain a special connection to and responsibility for country and place. 1.6 focuses on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples living in Australia and demonstrating resilience in responding to historic and contemporary impacts of colonisation. There's a particular fit with that code. And then the third, 1.9, when we look at present and past contributions of Aboriginal peoples and Torres Strait Islander peoples, locally, nationally and globally. The resource also fits well with the general capability of intercultural understanding, particularly the element of interacting and empathising with others. This is an important element of what this resource tries to achieve in our students. And in all learning areas, you can find a fit with what follows. The other aspect of curriculum is the QCAA's 21st Century Skills that are being used in the general senior syllabuses, particularly the skill of personal and social skills. The early years learning framework also aligns beautifully with this resource. and in particular the outcome of children connecting with and contributing to their world. And finally, My Time, Our Place. This framework is linked to the Early Years Learning Framework and focuses on children from birth to 5 years. The pedagogical approach we used in Reconciliation Conversation Starters is twofold. Firstly, we take on board the teachings, the philosophical, practical teachings in this particular resource delivered to us from UNESCO entitled Global Citizenship Education, Topics and Learning Objectives. There are 3 domains of learning associated with this resource, the first of which is the cognitive. And what this resource attempts to do, indeed does, is link our learners' skills of critical thinking and analysis with topics that have connection to the local, national and global context. And secondly, the domain of socio-emotional learning. In this resource, we endeavour to develop our students' attitudes of empathy, solidarity and respect for difference and diversity. And thirdly, what the resource does is deliver ways of engaging our students in an active way so that they are more willing to take on board the necessary actions to achieve more equity and more social cohesion for all people located in our society. Part B of our pedagogical approach, and features strongly through this resource, is the work done by Project Zero at Harvard University through the visible thinking approach, and you can see the website link there. This approach aims to deepen content learning and to cultivate students' thinking skills and thinking dispositions across all ages and subjects. And it does this by utilising very simple thinking routines that you can apply on a regular basis. The other two aspects to this particular approach, which don't feature in the resource, but I commend to you, include the documentation of student thinking. So you use the resources, you elicit thinking, you document that thinking, and then finally, through a very good process of reflective professional practice, Harvard supports you to deconstruct that thinking and to see where your students are at and how much more and where to go with that thinking to strengthen it and to refine it. So in this resource, we use, in fact, 11 different visible thinking routines. Just the tip of the iceberg, actually. When you go to the Visible Thinking Routines website, you will see many different routines that can be applied to elicit perspectives that engage children in creative thinking, in understanding more deeply, in truth-seeking, and that kind of thing which we all know we need if our children are to succeed professionally and personally in our globalised world. So, in closing in this section of our discussion, what you're going to find then in this resource are 4 case studies, each of which starts with an inquiry-based question. The first of which, how does the greatest show on earth connect us to the roots of injustice experienced by the Bookerman people, takes us to Palm Island off the coast of Townsville. And then we move into a question which relates to Mount Isa. How can the streets of Myanmar and Mount Isa help us better understand homelessness? And thirdly, who owns Indigenous artefacts? Our context for this question is Cairns and Canada. And finally, we look at the question of what is in a name? The rise and fall of Jim Crow from the USA to Rockhampton, locations that the Global Learning Centre has had the privilege, that is Queensland-based locations, we've had the privilege of visiting this year.